Morena koutou. No mai haere mai ki te hui o Toi Moana. Welcome, councillors, to the meeting of Toi Moana Bay of Plenty Regional Council, the final meeting on Thursday the 25th, final meeting of the Terranium on Thursday the 25th of September. So in opening the meeting, could I remind councillors and staff that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and the recording will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website following this meeting. I further remind you all that local government decision making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for any comments made during the meeting that are subsequently found to be slanderous in a court of law. With those comments, because I asked Councillor White for an opening karakia, please.
Kia ora no tātou, te mihi tūtahi ki tō tātou kaihanga. Nāna nei homai te waiora me te hauora, e kore ai o tātou tīnana, I taira ma tātou ki tēnei haora, klori ki tūnunga tapu. Tuarua, I ngā mate e piko ana kia koutou, ngā mate e kuehi atu I te pō, ngā mate haere. Haere ki te putahitanga o rehu, ngā mate haere atu rā. Ngā mate e te riki nui, tumutu, te huhu, e te rangatira, haere atu rā, hoki atu rā ki o matua tūpuna, e te rangatira. Moi mai rā, kei tua te are, moi mai rā. Me koutou hoki ngā mate e piko ana ki o koutou, ko Phil Thomas, mā. Ngā rangatira o te taiao no Rotorua, ka nui te mihi aroha ki a koe me tō whānau. Hoki. Me ko hoki te Hira Roberts, te rangatira no Tapuika, I hari atu rā ki te moi I te taha matua tūpuna e te rangatira. Me koutou hoki, ngā mate e piko ana ki a koutou, ngā mate haere. Moi mai rā kei tue te are, moi mai I runga I o koutou, moi ngaro, moi mai rā. Just before I do the karakia, just to understand, this is also an acknowledgement to those who have passed at this particular moment. Given this is our final day, it's an opportunity to declare our aroha for them in those past. For all of you who are carrying that moi or that sadness of people you love have gone before you, when we place the blessings of the Creator upon them all, and may they rest peacefully beyond the veil. And I certainly acknowledge Te Ariki Nui Suhepi Te Hihu. He is lying in state, and over the next couple of days, massive crowds will be there to acknowledge him. Phil Thomas, as I mentioned, for Rotorua, he'd be a sad loss. He was a brave warrior for the taiao over his way. And of course, I've just passed a note that from Tapuika Te Hira Roberts has also passed away. But you all have those who have passed before you. So may they all be blessed and sleeping solemnly in the bosom of our Creator. On that note, I'll say a brief karakia, Mr. Chair. E noi tātou. He honore, he krori ki te atua, he maungarongo ki te mato o te whenua e whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa mene. Hanga e te atua he ngā kauhau ki roto ki tēnā o mātou. Whakatongi o tō wairu tapu hei a whina hei tohotoi o mātou whiti kāro ngā whiti kōrero. I runga te kaupapa nui I mui a tātou I tēnei rā. Ko hukarai te koto mātou kai whakaora. Amen. The blessings of the Creator be upon you all. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor White. Thank you. Next agenda item is apologies. There are no apologies. The next one is public forum. There's no public forum. But could I take the opportunity to welcome former Councillor Norm Brunning in the public gallery here. Norm Brunning was part of the cohort who came into council here in 2013, Norm, and you did 3 terms. So welcome as an observer here today. And I know that you and I go back a long way, a lot more than 2013. So at morning tea, please feel free to come down and join councillors. Maybe we can share some war stories from the past. Welcome, Norm. Items not on the agenda. Confidential minutes from the 16th of September will be added for confirmation in the confidential report. Order of business, no changes. Declaration of conflict of interest. Councillor Crosby.
Yes, this is potentially in 10.4 with regard to Quayside. There's no decision there, but we are mentioned in dispatches. So just want to clear that.
Thank you, councillor Crosby, and similarly, councillor White. Thank you. Public excluded be transferred, business to be transferred into the open. There is none. So that takes us through to the minutes, Regional Council minutes of the 7th of August. Who was that? Oh, councillor Thurston, you moved?
Yes.
Councillor Winters second. Councillor Winters.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on page 17, we talked about the amendments to the Regional Navigation and Safety Bylaw and the Astrolabe Motor D Island, all that. I'm wondering if our CEO can give us an update on the timelines for the introduction of the new bylaws that we did 12 months ago.
Kia ora koutou councillors. Yes, I'm pleased to say I have been writing to the CEO of the Ministry of Transport, and yesterday we received notice that the paper will go through Cabinet, and we expect that the infringement will be enabled by the 21st of November this year, which is in front of our summer period, which is exactly what the council wanted. So that is what we expect to happen.
Thank you, councillor Winters. So it's been moved and seconded. Council minutes of the 7th of August. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye, against, carry. Thank you. Regional Council minutes of the 16th of September. I move. Councillor Lanese second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favour say aye. Against, carry. Thank you. That takes us through to 9.1, which is the chairperson's report. Chairperson's report is appended, so I'll move the adoption of it. Are there any questions? Questions? Can we have a seconder? Councillor Lanese? Nothing, councillors? Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Chairperson's adoption of the chairperson's report. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. 9.2, public transport fare increase. Mr. Haycock.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Through you, Chair. The paper before you presents a recommendation from the Public Transport Committee to increase urban public transport fares by 25%, rounded to the nearest 10 cents. This represents an interim position while we await the implementation of the national ticketing solution, which is targeted to be operational throughout New Zealand by the end of 2027. Staff recommend that should you wish to endorse this increase, that it comes into effect from the 22nd of January 2026, but there is the option to expedite this to the 25th of November 2025, should it be the wish of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haycock. Councillor Von Duddleton is chair of the Public Transport Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Regional Council did agree to a fare increase and review an increase in December 2024, and that increase included moving to a zone-based system. It increased the adult fare to $3.70 on B card and $5 cash on and a charge of 50% for children, but recognising that to change the child fare would require the national ticketing solution to be implemented, which, if we remember, was sort of programmed for July, August 2025, and now we're talking 2027. So it's urgent, I think, that we haven't had a fare increase in public transport since the contract was given back in 2018, and it's got out of kilter, and it makes it very hard to give a balanced fare box recovery. Just to put it in perspective, the current fare box recovery for the Bar Plenty public transport system is 60 cents. The national average is $1.87. The Bar Plenty is second to last of all regional councils, with Horizons being lower than us at 59 cents. Just so you know, the Auckland is sitting at $2.27 and Wellington at 1.76. So our 60 cents is way below the required fare box recovery. And it's important, if we want to continue to get government funding for public transport, that we show a genuine action to get our fare box recovery up. Some will say, well, first of all, just recognise that council staff at the Public Transport Committee meeting last 10 days ago did recommend a 36% increase. And that 36% increase was based on keeping in line with CPI since throughout the contract. So there's a big catch up to be had. It was agreed through public transport to ease it back to 25 cents. And some will ask, well, what about other regional councils? And many of them have annual reviews. They don't always put them up annually, but they do have annual reviews. And the biggest increase, which came into effect 1st of July 25, was Canterbury, and they went for a 50% increase to get in line. Putting it into perspective of dollars, they went from $2 to $3. But they're not the only ones. We had Otago. Otago was, as of the 1st of September, went up 25%. Waikato went up 20% in 2004 and 11.4% in 2005. So there is precedent here. I think we have to show that we are committed to getting our finances right in public transport, so that because we can't afford to be out of kilter with central government and NZTA. We need their support so that we can operate an efficient system. So while I would like to recommend 36, I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with what was approved through the PTC and ask you to strongly support this resolution, which is a 25% increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Von Duddleston. Oliver, look, could I compliment you on a very clear and concise report? I think it's fair to say you raised the issue of national ticketing system. That has been a tortuous process. It's not something that we control, but we're recipients of wherever it's going to get to. And the other one, I think it's worth noting, there's a lot of emphasis put on the proposed percentage increase here. I think that's dangerous, and it should be the nominal dollars, as highlighted by Councillor Von Duddleston here, because that's what hits people in the pocket. It might sound good from a media perspective, but it is a nominal increase here. And I think the paragraph under table 6 is a paragraph that councillors should recognise, because I think that captures the effect of the nominal increase in the terms of a targeted rate and the fare box recovery. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you, Chair. So I do support a fare increase, and this is a band-aid situation because of the delays with Motu Move. When the NTS comes in, we are going to have the opportunity for incentive, like the frequent flyer sort of type incentive, where, you know, if you get on the bus a number of times a week, then you get there's a lid on it, and then you get some free bus rides. Patronage is really, really important. We invest tens of millions, that's our ratepayers and residents, invest tens of millions of dollars in our public transport system. And if we jump up 25%, we are estimated to lose 9% of patronage. Many of us have just been on hustings in candidate meetings and had people calling them ghost buses, which is not actually true. Our buses are, do have patronage, and particularly at commuter hours, they're packed full often. So it is a bit of a myth, but there is a perception in the community that these big buses don't have enough people in them, and that is voiced all around at every meeting I've attended, and hear it regularly from the public. if we lose 9% of patronage for a difference in something like $230,000 on a tens of millions of dollars of investment, then I think that's not a good business move. So I would like to propose we go up 10%. This is a band-aid situation for the next 18 months. It's a very unfortunate situation to be in, because we all desperately want the NTS, and that's where we can incentivise patronage and frequent use of our public transport system. I think it's too big a jump. I think people will notice the difference in their bus fare, and we will lose patronage. So if we're investing tens of millions, why do we want to lose 9% of our customers? The problem with behaviour change, with mode shift, is once you lose that behaviour change, it's really, really, really difficult to get it back. And then you're basically pushing the proverbial uphill to get those that patronage back up if we take a dip here. So I propose 10%. That way people can wear it. We still lose 4% of patronage, but we don't lose 9%. And we've approved all of the fare increases for the minute we get Motu Move. We've already approved all of those, and they're really well thought out. But this is too high a risk on patronage.
So thank you, councillor McMillan. Are you moving an amendment to the recommendation?
Yeah, I am.
Clarification here. I understood councillor von Dadelsson moved the motion. I don't think there was a seconder. I'm happy to second it, but now we've just got an amendment. So it's just a procedural matter. I think we need to tidy up, Chairman.
So I missed the point. If councillor von Dadelsson did move it, I know that he spoke in favour of it, but I'm prepared to. Mr. von Dadelsson, you moved the motion. Councillor Shirley, you seconded it, but now we have a proposed amendment on the table. So that is that the fare increase be limited to 10%. Do we have a seconder to that amendment? Councillor McDonald. Right, thank you. So we will deal with the councillor Crosby.
Yeah, just not speaking to it or anything, just point of clarification if I can, to Oliver. That 9%, I know it's projected. How is it made up, and what part of those factors can vary over time, like fuel costs, things like that, to create that displacement? Just so I'm aware of that. Is it, how real is it? It could be more, it could be less, I'm not sure. But just a slightly further explanation on that displacement.
So through you, Chair, the implications on patronage have drawn upon internationally undertaken research on reactions to changes in pricing on public transport, and that is elasticity driven. So we have assumed a standard elasticity for people's sensitivity to changes in bus pricing of minus 0.2. On demand, it's a different type of service, but when we did the fares increase on that, we assumed the same elasticity of minus 0.2, and the initial demand reaction looks like it's been minus 0.15. So within the bounds, very close to what the staff used in the forecasting. The unknown is how long it will take for demand to recover from that. So usually you'd expect to see a lag factor of 12 to 18 months to get back. But as you acknowledged, Councillor Crosby, there are a lot of other factors out there that influence public transport usage. The other big one being the cost of parking for commuters.
Thank you, Ollie. So we're dealing with the amendment. The amendment's been moved by councillor McMillan, second by councillor McDonald. Are there any speakers to the amendment? We've got councillor Neese, councillor Shirley. Yeah. Councillor Neese, then Shirley, then.
Thank you. At the Public Transport Committee, I strongly supported the position that councillor McMillan has proposed as an amendment, for the very same reason that I've felt that we're, particularly in Tauranga, we're living in a city where congestion is a real issue. And I really did not like the prediction that nearly 10% of our patronage would drop in an environment when many people are already not that sure that our investment in public transport is a good investment. I came along this morning after having done some research and checking out what other people had done and what the compounded CPI rate was going to be. I'd come along this morning prepared to support a 25% increase. However, Councillor McMillan's position, as she put it, has rung all the bells that I was thinking about at the Public Transport Committee. So for that reason, I'm going to back the 10% increase. However, if it fails, I give notice that I'll be supporting the 25% increase.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Councillor Shirley.
Thank you, Chairman. I was at the committee, and we've had some very thorough, detailed reports, and congratulations to the staff for that. I think the situation's very clear. But in my view, I don't support the amendment on the basis that I don't believe we have actually any room to manoeuvre or any options. And while 25% does sound very severe and there'd be very great resistance, and I agree with you, Chairman, that it's actually, when you actually put it in sense, it's not a great increase in terms of a monetary sense, but it's just horrendous. And why is it 25%? It's because we haven't adjusted it since 2018. And costs have escalated massively, and we haven't made that adjustment. So we're right out of kilter. And it's already been points been made out where the second worst, and it's only Horizons is 59 cents, we're 60 cents. We're a third of what it is the average for the country in terms of fare box recovery. We've had a very clear message from government, and we've got to get to a 14%, as I understand it, fare box recovery. And we're currently struggling to get to 10%. So we're going backwards if we don't do at least 25%. I'll support 25%. I actually think, like the chairman indicated, you actually need 36% if you're going to start making progress towards the target that government's instructed us to do. We're going backwards if it's less than 25%. 25% is catch up to the 2018 position. That's the hard reality of it. And if you look at the numbers, we actually, there's 3.5 million journeys on our public transport system a year. If you put in the government money and our money, every trip costs, my calculation, something like $28. That's the level of the public subsidy. And yet we're talking about a fare of sort of $1.70 or $1.90 or whatever it might be. We all have the sentiment of, yes, let's try and make it as affordable as possible, but we're just heading for trouble. We're in trouble because the decision we made in 2018, and you're going to compound it now if you don't go to at least 25%. And it's not big in a monetary sense. It's quite small. It just sounds horrendous. It sounds horrendous because of what the decision we made in 2018. And to repeat that mistake now would be very, very unwise in my view.
Thank you, Councillor Shirley. Councillor Thurston.
Colleagues, I've heard all the arguments and they were well aired at the PT meeting. I'm fully aware that to secure ongoing government funding, we have to operate under government directives and expectations. And we know government expectations is around lifting private share, or what we used to call in the olden days fare box recovery. At the debate at the PT meeting, I agreed and supported the stance along with Councillor Nees of a 10% rate increase. I see a 10% rate increase as transitional. There's a new council coming in, and I represent a marginalised community, and it's all well and good for us to sit around here and say that $1 is not a lot of money, but it's one hell of a lot of money when you haven't got it. And I leave that to you. But no, along with Councillor Nees, if the amendment fails, I will be supporting the 25%.
Thank you, Councillor Thurston. Councillor Von Duddleston.
Just let's look at the on-demand service, and that was put up from $2.72 to $4, and $5 for cash. And yes, it did drop initially, but actually we've recovered patronage 100%. Different service because it is a premium service, but that was necessary if we're going to have a successful on-demand. If the trial was to be successful, we increased patronage on the on-demand route from 300 a month to 3,800 a month. So fantastic on a pet, but we weren't making any money out of it. In fact, we were losing money hand over fist, and council supported that increase. Just to put it in perspective, the cost of the service on the last figures that I've got for just look at Tauranga alone was about $21 million, and we've got a recovery of 3 million. So we're getting a very poor recovery. In Rotorua, the cost was this is last year's, not this year's figures, 4.35 million, and we got a cost recovery of just 700,000. So we are way behind, and we have to show genuine endeavours in this if we want to receive government funding. Thank you very much to our General Manager, Transport, Oliver, who sent out an email because it was queried, what about if we do it as a graduated, do it in 2 stages? And what he came back in his email was the fixed costs each time will remain about the same, and so it is. Interim solutions are too expensive. We've actually got to get efficiency and effectiveness, and I strongly ask you to turn down 10% and be hard-nosed on this. 25 doesn't actually quite catch up, but at least it's in the right ballpark. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Von Doddleson. Councillor Scott, then E.T.
I oppose the amendment. We're in this position because we haven't been willing to take the hard decisions up until now. All this is a catch up for 7 years of kicking the can down the road. It doesn't even get us ahead of the game. There's got to be a time when we've got to be leaders in the community, unfortunately, and this is a cost. There's a social license we have as a council in providing public transport. For the median ratepayer in Tauranga, half of the rates go towards the targeted public transport rate. We've been hearing on the campaign trail from people talking about public transport. It's possibly the number one issue for people, for issues being raised. As I say, there's a social license. People are saying, well, yeah, we're prepared to pay a targeted rate so that we can provide a efficient and effective public transport system, but there comes a limit to where users also must pay their fair share. So we're only catching up. We're not going ahead. We're only catching up because we've kicked the can down the road for 7 years. We've got to make sure that we keep the community on board by making sure that there's a fair share between users and the people who benefit from less cars on the road. So that's a reasonable thing to do. And I also worry about comments about it's only $230,000. $230,000 there, $14,000 there, and before you know it, we lose control of our the rate at which we're increasing our rates, which is probably the second most common issue that's been on the trail. So as a decision, this is what I'm hearing that our community wants. We've got to keep to the 25% increase.
Thank you, Councillor Scott.
One other point is about the externalities apart from just the plain rate rises. The city here has increased parking charges in the region for parking charges, so that will probably, I would imagine, affect the usage and the habits that have been formed.
Thank you, Councillor E.T.
Mr. Chair, I'll be supporting the amendment. It's my view that we're actually in this situation because of the huge cuts that this government has did make to public transport. I know when those were announced, we were all aghast. so they could pay for tax cuts and I know a bigger defence budget, whatever they want to spend it on. But for communities that this will impact, to be hard-nosed with those communities, and these are cumulative costs that are put on communities. If you've got a family, you know, a raise of 60 cents per trip, which would be a return trip per day, adds up really quickly. So whether we balance it off with rates or with user charges, I think 25 is too far. I think 10%. When we're in this transitory stage waiting for the national ticketing system to come into effect, I am comfortable with a 10% at this stage, and then leave it for the next council to deal with it when they come in. Kia ora.
Thank you, councillor Eadie. Councillor McDonald.
Kia ora. I guess Councillor Eadie has kind of alluded to what I wanted to raise too, in supporting the 10% now and leaving it for the new council to review moving forward. The other thing I want to also say is just in regards to Councillor Scott, that's what he's hearing in his community. That's not what I'm hearing in my constituency. So, you know, that's the diversity of our communities. So I do support the amendment, and certainly for the new council to look at once the new council has been established. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor McDonald. Right of reply, councillor McMillan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on Councillor Scott's comment about it's just 230,000. That's not what I was saying. The point I was making is that this region invests tens of millions of dollars into our public transport service. So to lose 9% patronage for $230,000 is not good business sense. So I just wanted to clarify that. I've been on the bus this week, seeing people counting out their dollars to pay for fares. When this NTS comes in, then we can really address this, and we've all approved those with all of the concessions and the levers that we need to pull to ensure good patronage and private share recovery. At the moment, this is a band-aid, and unfortunately 2027 feels a long way away, but actually as per Ollie's report, it may take until January to kickstart this anyway. So then we're maybe talking 15 months. So it's an interim phase, and I think it's the appropriate thing to do in the situation of the very unfortunate delay of Motu Move. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor McMillan. So my view, councillors, is I do not support the proposed amendment on the basis that, yes, this proposal is focused on urban contribution to the public transport system. It doesn't include non-urban. However, those councillors who represent urban communities, I'd suggest to the rest of you that it's your fiscal responsibility to consider this in the whole in terms of the revenue and financing policies for public transport. And as said by councillor McMillan, the proposer, this is simply a band-aid. Ultimately, you will be expected to address this in terms of meeting the government's objective, in terms of meeting these fare increases. So those councillors, I propose to put the amendment. Everyone's clear on the amendment. All those of the amendment, which is to reduce the staff recommendation from 25% to 10%. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No. Vision.
The vision has been called for. Can I have those who are in support of the amendment, please raise your hand. Against? Declare it carried. So it now becomes a substantive motion, and I put the recommendations. You're prepared to move, councillor McMillan, all the recommendations there? Recommendations. Oh, it was 7-5. Sorry? 7 to 6, sorry. That was my read. Done?
Yes.
Yes, so that becomes the substantive motion, with the only change being increase in urban public transport fares from 25 to 10%. So we're clear, everybody? We'll put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Next agenda item 9.3, procurement planning, rivers and drainage capital works. We've got Mr. Townsend on Zoom, do we?
We do indeed.
Welcome, Mr. Townsend.
Morena koutou. So I'd like to take the report as read and open up for questions, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Ingle, any commentary?
Councillors, Morena, this is our normal routine annual procurement plan for the summer construction season. It's projects that have been approved already in the annual plan, long-term plan. So as per normal, we've asking your approval to go through the procurement process. And Mark apologises he couldn't be here today, but he can answer any questions we have. It's fairly routine and an annual process we have to.
Happy to move.
It's moved. Councillor Winters, Councillor Crosby.
Happy to second, just with a question.
Thank you. Question.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Your sense of the market, it's still relatively competitive?
It is. Mark might want to add to that because he's closer to the business end than I am. Competitive marketplace, Mark?
Yeah, so we're getting a good round of tenders. There is a bit of regional tendering, i.e. Contractors from Western Bay don't seem to want to come over to the Eastern Bay and vice versa. But we're still getting at least 2 competitive tenders per tender.
Anything else, councillors? Councillor Scott.
Yeah, just a point of clarification, I suppose. On page 50, there's a comment about broader outcomes. And so, you've got the purpose for the contract, and through the procurement activity, staff will consider opportunities to achieve more, starting with the 4 government construction priority outcomes. I'm just wondering what else might be taken into account.
Yeah, there's methodology that we work through for these tenders. We set certain criteria. Prices, of course, is one aspect, and more and more we're getting these social procurement requirements coming through from central government, which is part of conditions, if you like, for the 60% funding. So we're seeing that fluctuate a bit depending on which minister's involved and of course which government is in place.
Councillor Shirley.
On that same point, with the signalled removal of the 4 well-beings, which exactly match the criteria of that broader outcomes, do you anticipate that might be removed from the prescriptive requirements?
There hasn't been a signal to us at our level yet. If it does get removed, I'd anticipate it'd be replaced with something similar anyway.
Councillor McMillan.
Sorry, just on that, in terms of social procurement, surely regardless of central government, we have our own social procurement. Now, where are we at with that policy development? Is that completed? And surely that would sit over this and guide this procurement policy. Am I right?
Chief Executive.
So through you, Chair, that's on the work programme to be done in the next financial year.
Yep. So once that's completed, then that would be our guiding light over this procurement policy anyway, regardless of governments removing well-beings from Local Government Act.
Yes, it would be a policy of council, but clearly if there is a change in legislation, then we will follow that change in legislation.
Councillor Neese.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the recommendations. I just wanted to make one point about the figures that are actually in the report. That is just a budget allowance. It's not what we hope we end up paying. So for those that may be listening, that is not what we're ready and willing to pay. What we're trying to get is the best contractor at the right price for our ratepayers. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nees. And similarly, this paper is essentially because some of these figures exceed the Chief Executive's limit of delegation. That's why this paper is in front of you. But as Mr. Townsend notes, because there are a lot of third parties interested in terms of capital projects here in the Bay of Plenty, the expectation from some of those third parties that these things are delivered on time, on budget, and to a high degree of competency. So it's not always the cheapest price that this council should look at in terms of taking a tender. And I'll just leave that for you to reflect on. And I think in my time here, the Kaituna diversion project was a classic example whereby staff estimate was well below what the contracted price we gave to the contractor was, but that project was delivered on time, on budget, to high quality standard. Right, councillors, it's been moved and seconded. Yeah, Councillor Winters, who seconded it? Councillor Crosby, thank you. I'm going to put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. 9.4 New Zealand Mutual Liability Risk Pool Variation. Byron.
Tamarie, Chair and Councillors, the purpose of this report is to make councillors aware of some proposed amendments to Risk Pool, which is a mutual insurance scheme providing liability cover to New Zealand local authorities. The scheme operates through a trust structure that was established in 1997 and administered by Local Government Mutual Funds Trustee Limited, also referred to as the trustee company for the purpose of the report. Council joined the scheme in 1997 and withdrew after the 2013 fund year. As a former member, Council remains liable for its share of any deficits arising during the years that it was a member of the fund, and also retains voting rights on any proposed changes to the trust deed, and will continue to be affected by the deed's governance framework. The court decision in 2023 confirmed that the non-weather tightness portion of mixed defect claims must still be covered. So this decision reopened previously declined claims and increased Risk Pool's potential liabilities, and also exposed shortcomings in the trust deed's governance and indemnity provisions. So this prompted a review of the founding documents which identified deficiencies in the trust deed governing the scheme. So the board of the trustee company are seeking consent to amendments to the deed as set out in section 2.2 of the report, which can only be made with consent from 90% of the applicable membership base. Council's legal team is liaising with other regional councils to gauge their position on this matter, whether there's an appetite to seek joint legal advice and the appropriateness of providing joint feedback to the trustee company. There are no immediate financial implications from the amendments proposed to the deed. Staff continue to monitor ongoing claims, reinsurance matters, and may seek budgetary provisions in future annual plans regarding past claims, as signaled in the report to the Risk and Assurance Committee at yesterday's meeting. So this report recommends delegating authority to the Chief Executive to either approve or withhold consent subject to legal advice received on this matter.
Thank you. Councillor Crosby.
Yeah, thank you, Kamaran, for giving us that overview. It's a messy situation, but it is what it is. I'm assuming if the deed has changed, it's not retrospective. So we're caught anyway with that case law, I suppose you'd call it, of considering more weather tightness issues. Yeah, that was the question. But I'm happy to move the recommendation soon.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby. So, Kumaran, a couple of things, or to Monique. I mean, this has the potential to be quite serious in terms of claims against us as a participant in risk pool. Your comment, Kumaran, that there is no immediate line of sight on claims. So this is not an issue that we should be declaring a contingent liability in the annual report.
Not at this stage. So the current liability that's been signalled to council as reflected in the Risk and Assurance Committee report yesterday was around 4.5K. Future exposure ranges could be between 6K to 600K. So that will be assessed through future annual plans and annual reports, depending on the nature of the liability and the probability of that liability being met.
And so the process that sits behind this is civil claims as opposed to class actions.
Through you, Chair, so we are in the process of touching base with the General Counsel at Risk Pool to get more line of sight in terms of what is happening with those particular cases and get some assurance around the monitoring of those so that we have that line of sight for council specifically.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Crosby, seconded by Councillor Campbell. No further questions. All those in favour?
Just quickly speaking to it. As one who has had a lot to do with the leaky home issue over a long period of time, you know, I'm glad that this current government is looking to de-risk ratepayers from the situation. Most of the history of this is that ratepayers were the last call, and this is another classic situation of it, which is grossly unfair. You're talking tens of millions of dollars, certainly from my experience just locally, if not more than that. So I do hope that this current government does get through its new proposals to share that risk, that we're not always the person of last resort across all the practitioners that are involved in a leaky building.
Thank you, Councillor Crosby. So with those comments, I'll move the resolutions, which are on page 53. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So that takes us to 9.5. Western Bay of Plenty City and Regional Deals, the public report. Mr. Taylor and Mr. Howie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, councillors.
So this is under separate cover, councillors, which you should have received anyway.
Thank you. So this paper is really just some administrative matters to cover the sort of transition period to the new council. So we're seeking some nominations and then to delegate authority to your representative to act on the governance group, to act on behalf of council just until we have a new chair in place. And also we've just noted some costs associated with the negotiation process, but staff have identified some budget lines where we can reallocate existing budgets to take those. So I'm happy to take any questions and your nominations for who you might like to be on the governance group.
Thank you. Chief Executive, maybe just like to inform councillors of the process that we're following, because I was asked yesterday in terms of what is the scope, or not even the scope, what is the agenda in terms of what we do every week in terms of our participation getting through to a potential recommendation to come back to this council.
So regional deals are important to this region. So we're very pleased that this region, part of this region, has been selected to be one of the first three that are being considered by government to go forward. Each week there is a governance group meeting that the chair and I attend, so that we're aware of where negotiations are at. It is clear that the government is seeking to have the first regional deal in place very shortly, potentially before Christmas. with the next two early next year. Hence why we have the recommendation to continue to have a council's representative during the time that we do not have a council in place. This is a fast-moving negotiation, so we are seeking to have a council representative to ensure that the new council is informed and the best interests of council are put forward through that negotiation.
Thank you, Fiona. So, Dean, just so council's aware, today there is the negotiation group is meeting with representatives from the Crown. And
Yes.
before you answer that, the original agenda that we were privy to a couple of weeks ago, which was essentially about the revenue financing, is that on the agenda for today or has it been pushed?
My understanding is that the meeting today, they will be continuing to talk about the sequencing and funding and financing aspects of the.
Thank you. Right, councillors. Councillor McMillan.
Are you seeking nominations?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
unless you've got commentary,
Yeah,
but
no, I'd like to nominate Stuart Crosby.
I'd like to nominate the Honourable Ken Shirley.
That the existing chair of the regional council, Doug Leader.
well, let's just deal this sequentially. So Councillor McMillan has nominated Councillor Crosby to take the position as outlined on, here it is here, looking at the wrong book, on page 2 of the Western Bay of Plenty City Regional Deals, which is delegates authority to. So she's recommending Councillor Crosby. Do we have a seconder? Right, the nomination fails. Councillor.
Thank you, Kat. Just in context, I'm already working with Mayor Mahi and Mayor James in terms of the Working for Delivery group of Smart Growth. Now, I'm not sure if that will be triggered, but what is actually triggered, and I'm relaxed about Councillor Shirley having that role over a short period of time, is my actual role with regard to Quayside, which I think is quite important. And would that have any other influence in terms of where this thing could end up? The point I do want to make, though, is that I have really accepted the ongoing engagement and feedback that both you and the CEO have given us. And I think that's absolutely critical. So no matter where this short-term position lands, that really must carry on right through to the end of this triennium and immediately to the next council. And I have to say that from my observation, that has not necessarily been the manner in which the other participants have been informed about. So we've developed a really good culture here on this quite important issue, which is a very good idea, but a very poor process, in my view, where elected members have not been able to participate the way they should, but it is what it is. We accept that. So, that's my position. I do want to acknowledge both you and Fiona in the way in which you've kept us up to date, and it's critical that we are kept up to date. And certainly from my position, I have a little role in Quayside, which is off to the side of this at the moment, but who knows when it's going to be front and centre. So happy for the proposal for Ken.
I'm happy to
Okay,
second.
thank
happy
you.
to second
Yeah.
the nomination. Yeah.
Thank you. So thanks, Councillor Crosby. And as Councillor Crosby said in the latter part of his dialogue, the important issue here is to date, Quayside has been once removed from these discussions. And I think it's important that that remains that position. We are not in this negotiation to represent or commit Quayside to a particular position. And I'll just ask you to note those comments from Councillor Crosby. So Councillor McMillan, you're still recommending Councillor Crosby? Councillor Eatey has seconded that. Sorry.
not a regular process. Should we, I'm just thinking of the normal way that we select a delegate. We don't have first name on the table being the one that's voted on.
Yep.
So we should be calling for support for the individuals.
Councillor Shirley.
I think this is critically important to this organisation. There's an awful lot at stake here potentially, and the whole reviews that are taking place, and our pūtea, and the regional deal sort of implications. I think given the huge sensitivities of it, that there's an awful lot of sense in you, Chairman, with your experience and background involvement to date is carrying on, and it is for an interim period. I think that is the most sensible position to maintain that continuity at this stage. So I would strongly urge that our chairman carry on in this interim period in that role.
Is the chair happy to take, are you taking the nomination, Mr. Chair?
We're informal at the moment, but look, could I implore upon you? This is for a period of a month. And it is not desirable that around this table, we sit around and can't decide on filling this role for a month. As the chief executive said, the impost on one's time and the number of face-to-face meetings is minimal. So my preference is that you consider this in the context of what I'm proposing to do now is to adjourn for morning tea. And if you can caucus during that time, and we'll come back and we'll deal with it at the end of that morning tea break. So we'll reconvene.
Chairman, point of order, we could speed this up because by my understanding in terms of process, Councillor Crosby's nomination has failed one of a seconder, and if I'm reading the meeting right,
that's not right.
Councillor
you've withdrawn.
So we've got the position is we've got three.
I beg your pardon. I thought you were seconding.
We've got three names on the table. One is Councillor Crosby, the other is Councillor Shirley, and some councillors have suggested myself. As you know, I'm finishing 11th or whatever it is, 11th of October. So I don't mind standing in if that's the considered view of council, but I preferably don't want to have to go to a position in terms of a public vote because we're in public. So I'll adjourn and I'll leave it to you as a professional group to caucus this whilst we have morning tea and come back and we'll deal with it. So we'll reconvene at 10:45. We're Thank you, councillors. We'll reconvene. Councillor McMillan.
Oh, thank you, Chair. So we've all had a bit of a korero and we are all in favour and very much supportive of asking you, Chairman Leader, if you would continue in that role until the new council is sworn in.
Okay, that's the considered consensus, Councillor McMillan.
It is, yep.
Right, thank you. So Councillor McMillan moved, Councillor Von Duddleston second. Okay, we'll take your moving it originally. Councillor McMillan will second. Thank you. So councillors, as you'll see in the next report, that this will only remain in place until your inaugural meeting on the 30th of October. The rules of this is I will represent the organisation. In doing that, I can only do that in conjunction with the Chief Executive. There will be no decisions made of committing this organisation to any position, but there may well be some negotiations in terms of representing this council at that forum. Thank you for that level of confidence, councillors. I'll put the resolution that I be on that. And so you've got 1, 2 and 3 in terms of your recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much. 9.6, Mr. Groom.
Thank you, Chair Mordina. Councillors, this is a relatively technical procedures report relating to end of triennium matters and seeking to delegate the ability to address urgent non-political matters to the Chief Executive for a brief period between election day and the new council being sworn in. I'll take the paper as read, happy to answer questions. I just note a minor correction to page 59, where the Tarawera Awa Restoration Strategy Group is now a well-established committee.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Winters moved. Thank you. Councillor Campbell second. No further discussion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Right, that takes us through to public excluded. I'll move. We go into public excluded.
Second.
Councillor Von Duddleston